Lichona njani mthokozo muhle Zimbabwe muhle kwazwai muri Zimbabwe. Welcome to The Connection, Studio 7's a very own youth program that targets tackling anything and everything youth related. Muri Zimbabwe, welcome to The Connection. This is a LiveTalk-The Connection brought to you by Studio 7, a Voice of America. On Tuesday, the 24th of November, 2020, Muri Zimbabwe, mthokozo muhle. I'm your host, Mike Hove. Our first order of business, Zimbabwe, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we are working from home. Now, what this means for you, abalaleli bethu, is unfortunately, you cannot call in live as per usual. However, Muri Zimbabwe kana mchila, mukwanisa kututumira ma message, and you can send us your views on WhatsApp on +1 202 465 0318. What you can also do is this program is going to be available on our 3 Facebook pages soon after our radio broadcast on VOA Ndebele, VOA Shona, and VOA Studio 7. So you can press the share button. So that we can watch this program in our numbers. But you can also put your comments in the comments section and we will see your feedback. Nonetheless, like so, we're together on The Connection with your boy Mike Hove. Tonight on The Connection, we continue the discussion on COVID-19, umkhuhlane we-coronavirus. Namhla kuhlelo siqhubekela phambili sikhangela lokho okwenzakalayo elizweni mayelana ngokumemetheka komkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Now, as we speak, Muri Zimbabwe, in the world, we are going to be currently in the world. There's over 59,300,000 people that have tested positive for COVID-19. The number is increasing as we speak. As I mentioned, this is a pre-recorded program, so by the time we go on air, Muri Zimbabwe, these figures could have changed. The death toll is currently at approximately 1,400,000. As for the recoveries, this is some good news. There's more recoveries than there are dead people. 38 million people, over 38 million people have recovered from COVID-19. Now in Zimbabwe, currently as we speak, Muri Zimbabwe, the latest information released by the Ministry of Health and Childcare states that there are over 9,300 confirmed COVID-19 cases. The death toll is currently at 273, and there are approximately 8,300 confirmed COVID-19 cases. Now, whilst we're on the same discussion on the data released by the Ministry of Health and Child Care, just yesterday alone, they released that 555 PCR tests were conducted, and of those 555, 88 new cases were detected, 23 recoveries, and 5 deaths. Of those 5 deaths, 4 are in Bulawayo and 1 is in Masvingo. Zimbabwe currently has 747 active COVID-19 cases. As we speak, once again, Bulawayo and Harare are still amongst the highest of COVID-19 contractions in Zimbabwe. Those are the 2 main hotspots. Harare currently sitting on 3,348 cumulative COVID tests, and Bulawayo sitting on 2,016 cumulative cases. Now, once again, this is a pre-recorded program. So what this means is by the time we go on air, there's a possibility that these figures might have changed. Nonetheless, that's what we currently have. Now, as a means of helping the Zimbabwe fight umkhuhlane we COVID-19, government recently took to the streets of Bulawayo in a program funded by the Africa Center for Disease Control, the Africa CDC, whereby they were helping volunteers understand more about umkhuhlane we COVID-19. They're training them so that they can also be proactive in the fight against coronavirus. Let's head over to a clip courtesy of the Ministry of Health and Child Care YouTube page, whereby Dr. Posha Manangazira explains more about this program. Let's hear more from her.
We are here in Bulawayo to commence on the round 2 of our pre-deployment training and orientation of community-based workers. This is a program that we started way back in July 2020 as part of our national response to COVID-19. This is facilitated and funded by the Africa Centers for Disease Prevention and Control under the Continental Pact strategy, which seeks to intensify testing early detection, confirmation, and effective management of COVID-19 cases so that we can curb the spread. So we saw it prudent to conscientize, sensitize, educate, and train our strategic persons within our communities so that they can work very closely with our local health teams and rapid response teams in terms of raising alerts within the community, carrying out the proper actions, and ensuring that there is a continuum of care of people that are discharged from quarantine and isolation facilities to the community. And there's also, intensified surveillance within the community to raise alerts that need the action of the local health teams.
Well, Muria Zimbabwe, you just heard there from Dr. Posha Manangazira, who was basically breaking down this program whereby they were in Bulawayo going to Tunga, educating volunteers on how to handle COVID-19 so that they can also train other people and, of course, better Zimbabwe's fight against COVID-19. Now, as mentioned earlier on, when we look at the deaths and the COVID-19 contractions, in the past couple of weeks, Bulawayo has been one of the most dominant places, as I mentioned in the data released by the Ministry of Health and Childcare. Just izolo kuphela izolo elizweni jikelele in the whole country there were 5 new deaths that were confirmed, and of those 5, 4 were all from Bulawayo going to Tunga. So as you can mention, and I also mentioned of the total amount of cases elizweni, 2016 are from Bulawayo alone, Bulawayo being the second highest in terms of COVID-19 contractions. A lot of people seem to be stressing a lot of the area because it's become a hotspot. A lot of deaths and a lot of contractions are becoming confirmed, especially over the last couple of weeks. So we reached out to a member of the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association to hear what exactly is happening going to Tunga, and of course she breaks it down for us. Joining us is Perseverance Nyati of the Bulawayo Residents Association. Let's hear more from Umanyati.
It's quite alarming. The COVID-19 figures are rising. The figures that were being given by the Ministry of Health and Child Welfare, the figures are rising so much. And this is causing a lot of panic amongst residents.
Perseverance, would you say Bulawayo residents are abiding by the guidelines set by the Zimbabwean government and, of course, the World Health Organization that target preventing the spread of coronavirus? Would you say they're abiding them back, or mask and so forth?
The Bulawayo residents are not abiding by the rules set by the WHO and the Zimbabwe government. We have noticed that most people are now not wearing their mask as a pre-measure to curb this disease. The Zimbabweans are not abiding by the WHO and the Zimbabwe rules and regulations towards the COVID-19 pandemic. People are so much relaxed. There are so many social gatherings that are happening around this time. People are already in December mode. But then we've got a crisis. The crisis which is COVID-19 in Bulawayo. The shabins are open, the bars are open. But then we have a crisis. And the figures are now alarming. The figures are rising every day.
Now, there also comes the whole discussion around the lockdown, Perseverance. We hear experts recently have been having a discussion around whether or not cities such as Bulawayo and Harare that have been discovered as hotspots should now execute another total lockdown. Last week, we had Dr. Tinotondas Memezo, who said, you know what, every city should act accordingly based on the data that they're receiving indirectly. And he also said Bulawayo and Harare should, he strongly suggests that they are looking to another lockdown. As an organization that deals with residents and, of course, the people of Bulawayo, what is your take on this, and what are the people saying about another lockdown?
At this moment in time, we think that a lockdown can perhaps help because people are now too relaxed. Lockdown could have a positive impact. It's helping the residents and helping the government in trying to curb this pandemic. We are assisting each other because we have noticed that people in Bulawayo are so much relaxed at this moment in time.
Now, let's take a look at another discussion, which is the reopening of borders that is expected to happen as of December. Zimbabweans are going to be reopening their borders. We see countries such as Botswana have also introduced a reopening borders to Zimbabwe and South Africa. With the COVID cases increasing, do you think this is advisable? And if that is the case, what words would you have to Zimbabweans during this time?
Well, Mike, as we've heard on social media, on national TVs, on newspapers, that Zimbabwe is expected to reopen borders on the 1st of December. At this moment in time, we're saying perhaps we are not ready, because if the borders are now closed, but then people are illegally coming into Bulawayo via by bridge, and they're the ones who are bringing this pandemic. So what more if the borders are now legally opened? People will die, people will be infected, more cases will be rising every day, as much as it is happening now.
Now, if we look at what's happening in schools, and I want to zone into one of the schools that seems to be in the headlines right now, John Talaka High School. There recently was a breakout of COVID-19 there, affecting hundreds of students. Do you think schools should stay open in the Matabeleland area, considering the increase in COVID cases during this time?
We think schools in Matabeleland should stay open. Why? Because the government initiated the opening of schools just a few weeks ago, 2 months ago. So closing the schools will literally put a discourse on the progression of schools come 2021. So in order to fight this pandemic, I think the schools must put stringent measures and progress well for the next coming grades, for the next coming secondary classes.
Bese sithinta ke udaba lolu ngolimi lukamama ngolwesindebele Manyathi. Awusitshela umbono wakho ngokukhuphuka esingathi ngokuqhubekela phambili kumemetheka umkhuhlane we-COVID-19 kakhulukazi koBulawayo, ukubona njani lokho?
Siyananzelela kakhulu ukuthi izinga le-COVID-19 selithe lamemetheka kakhulu koBulawayo. Sikhangela kuma-figures lawo esiwaphiwa ngabe-Ministry of Health and Child Welfare. Njalo kuyethusa kakhulu ngobana lama-residents, izakhamizi sezethukile sibili kakhulu kubana kanti emphakathini wethu izinga liyaqansa, thina sicabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe liyayehla kanti lona liyaqansa.
Siyezwa ingcwethi ezitshiyeneyo bekhuthaza abakhulu esingathi ama-government officials amadolobheni atshiyeneyo, kakhulukazi eHarare njalo koBulawayo, ukuthi bakhangele ukwenza enye i-lockdown ukuze abantu bengaminyani, ukuze umkhuhlane lo ungaqhubekele phambili umemetheka, ikakhulukazi eHarare kanye la koBulawayo. Awusitshela umbono wakho ngalokho, ukubona njani lokho?
Thina nje ama-residents sibona kuwumbono omuhle, ngoba izinga leli lingabe lokhu likhuphuka, abantu abaningi bazabhubha. Njalo ukubhubha kwabantu asonto enhle. Sikhulumela ekuthini abantu kumele sizigcine, kumele unakekele umuntu oseduzane kwakho. Ngakho-ke siyagcizelela njalo siyinhlanganiso ukubana besicela nje abantu bacabangisise kakhulu ukuthi impilo iqakathekile, njalo-ke asibuyeleni ekugcineni ama-rules and regulations ona lawana esaphiwayo, ukubana social distance, washing of hands, lokuziphatha kahle nje sigqoka ama-mask ethu. Singabuyela ku-lockdown, mhlawumbe kungasinceda njengedolobho, sizavikela abantu abaningi kubhubhano lwe-COVID.
Bese sikhangela-ke okwenzakalayo esikolo se-John Talak High School. Siyabona ukuthi esikolo lesi kulabantu abaningi ngempela abasebebanjwe ngalo mkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Sikhangela lokho okwenzakalayo kulesi sikolo se-John Talak High School. Ubona ngani isikolo kumele ziqhubekele phambili zivuliwe na, ikakhulukazi eMatabeleland?
Sinanzelela njalo Mike ukubana ezikolo ezithile kube kwaba lokumemetheka kwe-COVID-19 okwethusa uBulawayo, kwethusa abazali babantwana abafunda ezikolo. Njalo siyagcizelela siyinhlanganiso yezakhamizi ukubana nxa kungavalwa izikolo kuzaphambanisa njalo futhi uhlelo lwezikolo olomnyaka ozayo oluka-2021. Izikolo nje kumele zifake ama-measures khonokhana ukuthi akula mntwana okumele angene ngela mask, akula mntwana okumele akhiphe imask, kumele kufumigethwe ezikolo, kubona ukuthi kuhlanzekile, kukhangelisiswe sibili ukuthi even labotitshala labo banjani bafaka ama-mask, bafundisa abantwana begqoke ama-mask wona lawo esikhuluma ngawo. Kube lama-measures nje njengezikolo, amboni ukuthi kungaphazamisa nxa konke kungalandelwa.
Silukandaba sithanda ukubonga Perseverance ngiyathi owenhlanganiso yebulawayo Progressive Residents Association. There Muria Zimbabwe was Perseverance ngiyathi of the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, highlighting what's happening in tirikuzeya Tunga. You heard her there. We touched on what's happening in the schools. We touched on what's happening in Bulawayo. We also focused on what is going to be happening soon in Zimbabwe, whereby the borders are going to be opening. And she says, as Bulawayo residents, they are really scared of that, because she firmly believes one of the things, not just herself, but also medical experts, one of the things that's contributing to Bulawayo's high figures is the fact Bulawayo, there's a lot of people coming into the country illegally without receiving their COVID tests, and they're settling in places such as Bulawayo. So that's one of the things that she feels it scares her as a Bulawayo resident, because she feels as though the proximity to South Africa being one of the most affected places by coronavirus in Africa, might be a thing that might even skyrocket and push our COVID numbers in Bulawayo even higher. As we mentioned earlier on, Muria Zimbabwe, right now in Bulawayo currently has at least 2,016 COVID cases, and the number of deaths is currently sitting at 78. Just yesterday, there were 4 new cases that were reported. But now, once on the discussion of another lockdown in cities such as Bulawayo and Harare that are really being impacted by coronavirus, we reached out to Dr. Tinotenda Smemeza. We've had him on this program quite a few times to hear his thoughts. Dr. Smemeza sent us a short clip whereby he is explaining his thoughts on another lockdown. Let's hear more from Dr. Smemeza.
Nzvimbo nenzvimbo dziri muno muZimbabwe dziri kufana kutarisa situation dzavo dzekuti munharaunda medu chiri kunatsoitika kuti chirwere ichi chiwedzere, chiri kunatsokonzeresa. Saka ndinoti ini kana vakuru vana mazvikokota nevanoona nezvemutemo vekubulawayo vaona kuti muno Bulawayo vanhu vari kunyanya kufamba, izvi ndo zviri kuita kuti chirwere chitekeshere maningi, regatione kuti toita sei. I think they should act according to their own situation that is there, so that they help it. Same to the different regions and country. They should we should study the patterns of where this virus is spreading and then act accordingly. So I would not say go for it only, but I would say let's study the patterns of the disease in the different areas and then act accordingly. So if a shutdown is required, like what is happening now in the UK, America, then we can do that. But if just strict restrictions in terms of wearing masks, or sanitizing of hands, social distancing, akaimplementwa kunzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana, zvinokwanisa kushanda zvakare. Saka inini ndinoti let's act according to the different pockets that we have in the different regions.
Dr. Tinotenda Smemeza giving his input on another lockdown, on his thoughts on whether or not places like Harare or Bulawayo should consider venturing into another lockdown. Every town should act accordingly, the same way that every country acts accordingly. So based on the data, every town should look at the data that they're receiving from the Ministry of Health and Childcare, decisions based on that information that they receive. Now, over the times, Muria Zimbabwe, we've also talked about another thing. What can youth do in helping against the fight against coronavirus? Now, recently, we've been talking about the fact that people seem to have relaxed a lot in Zimbabwe when we talk about COVID-19. People are not wearing their masks as usual, as mentioned by Perseverance Nyati and medical experts that have come onto this program. They are urging Zimbabweans, wear your masks and so forth. It's very, very important, especially now more than ever during a time whereby COVID cases are increasing. We have a clip that we're about to play, courtesy of the World Health Organization Zimbabwe branch, of course, of two young Zimbabweans, airport students, Blessing Konga and Clive Munyati, who are basically discussing together about the importance of wearing a mask, because they also highlight that people seem to have relaxed a lot more than our mask in the way that they're supposed to accordingly wear the masks. Let's head over to these two young gentlemen to hear their thoughts on the importance of wearing a mask. The above footage that we're about to play is courtesy of the World Health Organization. Well, Muria Zimbabwe, you just heard there the two young guys from airport. Coronavirus, please, Muria Zimbabwe, act accordingly. Hansi, fake my mask in a necessary way. If you're going to be wearing a mask, Hansi, close your mouth, close your nose. Make sure that you are safe and as preserved as possible. Now, we also have a clip whereby one of our correspondents reached out to Professor Solwayo Ngwenya, who is based in tirikuzeya in Bulawayo. And Professor Ngwenya talks about a lockdown. Professor Ngwenya talks about what's happening in Bulawayo with COVID cases. As I mentioned, we like to hear more from medical experts. So let's head over to Professor Solwayo Ngwenya of Mpilo Hospital to hear his thoughts on what's happening in Bulawayo.
Inani lawo lapha koBulawayo liyaphezulu. Igciwane le coronavirus lizabulala abantu abaningi ngoba kalindawo lokho elikhona liqansa lisiyale limemetheka njengomlilo. Siyaxwayisa kakhulu ukuthi lilalele khonokho, njalo uhulumende laye siyamncenga ukuthi abisele njalo le lockdown elalivele lingayithanda abaningi benu. Nxa kungela lockdown ngibona impilo zabantu abaningi le Christmas lonyaka lisoze lidlale kuhle, kuzabe kuzinyembezi kunjalo siwe emangcwabeni. Ngiyalixwayisa kakhulu bantu bakithi.
Skika mfundo Professor Solwayo Ngwenya uyasho ngempela ukuthi hayi izulu kandaba umkhuhlane lo usumemetheka ngendlela emangalisayo ikakhulukazi koBulawayo. 2016 cases as we speak. Uyasho ngempela ukuthi hayi abantu kumele bazame ngamandla abo wonke ungaminyani, kumele baqhubekele phambili behlonipha imithetho ye lockdown. So wash your hands. Uyasho ngempela uSkika mfundo Professor Solwayo Ngwenya ukuthi maintain social distancing and wear your masks accordingly, as mentioned by Perseverance Nyati, who we had earlier on. People seem to be relaxing a lot now, and they also touch on the fact that now all of a sudden they're now meeting in bars, they're now meeting in all these social places, and they're saying COVID-19 has not gone anywhere. Muria Zimbabwe, please act accordingly, please protect yourself by all means necessary. Now, whilst on the discussion of the spread of COVID-19, another place whereby coronavirus is starting to spread is schools. Recently, we've heard of John Talak High School, which is just outside outside Bulawayo, whereby there are hundreds of students have contracted COVID-19, have tested positive for umkhuhlane COVID-19. Recently, Reverend Useni Sibanda and the Zimbabwe Christian Alliance were at John Talak High School, whereby they were giving donations to help against umkhuhlane COVID-19, against their fight against coronavirus. coronavirus, seeing as though hundreds of students have tested positive for COVID-19. Let's head over to Reverend Useni Sibanda, who's going to tell us more about what he was doing at John Talak High School, and of course, what's happening, how many students have tested positive for COVID-19, and most importantly, what are they doing to help the students and teachers?
As I stand here, I represent church leaders from Atebeleland, from Miklands, from Mashonaland, from all over. So this is the church in action. Yeah. As you can see, Zimbabwe Christian Alliance, our main aim is to see a peaceful Zimbabwe. So we believe Imkuhlane can bring discomfort to people. Like now, our communities are distressed by COVID-19. So we have been responding, taking immaterial like this to quarantine centers around the country, special targeting our border towns and inflow towns. But now we realize that John Talak was quite unique. Yes. It's not a quarantine center, but because of what has happened, we have people quarantined here, and we have decided to do an emergency response situation based on the needs that we received from you. So therefore today I've brought with us toilet papers. These are 20 times 9 packs. So these are almost 180 rolls that we have brought in, yes. And then we've got bleach, which is our chemicals that you need for cleaning, for making sure that the place is safe. We've got 20 times 5 liters. So we hope this can push you for some time. And we brought a surgical mask. Yes. So we've got 1,950 of those surgical masks that are in a box. Then our buckets, we realize which you might need buckets either to separate things, materials, or for washing, for kids to be washing. So we brought 10 times 20 liters of these buckets. It's for the school to see how we want to use them. I also want to take this time to appreciate UK Aid, which is the Foreign Commonwealth Office that actually had given us a donation to respond to COVID. So this is part of the donation. We decided to include John Talak into it. And our prayers are with both the students that are here, with you as teachers and authorities, as well as with the parents and communities.
So, Muria Zimbabwe, you're hearing there from Reverend Useni Sibanda, who's breaking down what they were doing at John Talak High School, whereby they were helping against the school's fight against umkhuhlane with COVID-19. Recently, it was announced that hundreds of students at John Talak High School are tested positive for umkhuhlane with COVID-19. So, yiko loko kwenzakalayo esikolo ndizo zviri kuitika ku John Talak High School. But now, what's on the same discussion of what's happening in schools? John Talak High School is not the only school in Zimbabwe whereby students have tested positive for COVID-19. Recently, also, there's another school in Chinoyi whereby students have tested COVID-19. Schools in different parts of the country now have students that are testing positive for COVID-19, which means umkhuhlane we COVID-19 usumemetheka ezikolo. Coronavirus is now spreading in Zimbabwean schools. So what we found it necessary to reach out to the teachers themselves. Recently, there's been a whole discussion around what's happening in Zimbabwean schools with regards to the teachers' protests, teachers protesting against their low salaries, teachers protesting against not what they were claiming wasn't enough distribution of PPE, especially in rural schools. One of them that we reached out to is Robson Chere of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union. He's a teacher himself, and he's also a Secretary General of the organization. Uchere highlights several different things whereby he feels as though when it comes down to it, he feels as though schools need to be closed. And of course, government needs to sort teachers' salaries out ASAP, because that is something that would help against the fight against umkhuhlane with COVID-19 elizweni. Let's hear more from Robson Chere of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe.
Earning paltry salaries which are eroded. And we have been consistent on this issue. Towards our employer, to telling our employer to address this issue or to do with the remuneration of teachers. An empowered teacher is one who can deliver very well and professionally. We will not expect to see incapacitated teachers going and delivering proper lessons when they are teaching on empty stomach. So we have been consistent in terms of actually trying to demand what the teacher rightfully must earn. But of late, the government has come up with another position of increasing, but still the salaries are below the poverty datum line. So the teachers remain incapacitated. In the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, our teachers have not been able to report back to work because they are incapacitated. At Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, we are not going to invigilate learners whom we have not taught, learners who have not completed the syllabus. It is very dangerous, and we are not going to allow that. So we have launched our Save Education campaign in Zimbabwe. We've been doing consultative meetings with our members. Just recently, during the weekend, we had these consultative meetings. One in the northern provinces, that is in Manicaland, Marsh West, Marsh East, and Harare, and then another one was in the southern region, Midlands, much south, much north, and Bulawayo. And our members resolved to come up into a series of protest action demanding the government to save our education, which is under attack and which is in crisis as well.
What does it mean for you guys as R2s now that some other teachers' unions have agreed to go back to schools?
Yeah, we have taken note of some of the teachers' union that have agreed to go back to school. But I would not want to lie to the nation. I would want to say the truth is that they compromise the position that we have as a united front of teacher unions. But genuine teachers, the teachers themselves are not back into schools. They might say that in the media, but issuing press statement whatsoever. But teachers are still incapacitated. Teachers are actually at their homes. And this is the reason why we are saying we have launched a Save Our Education campaign right now, where we have consulted. And now we are going to take collective effort with the teachers in terms of confronting the crisis that we have in the education sector, so that the government will actually restore the dignity of a teacher by paying salaries that we agreed, 520.
Let's now delve into the whole COVID-19 discussion. You've already touched on what's happening in at John Talak High School. Do you think that schools should remain open?
The school should actually close, and then there should be measures to make sure that all those learners, they are quarantined, and there's also proper testing as well, and trace also the movement that they might have done for the past few weeks, so as to trace even if there is any suspect of having contracted or spread the pandemic to other people. So even at the moment, if there are no proper measures, like we have also said, in place, schools must close. Then we have time also to put in proper precautionary measures in place, because even if we are to close down John Talak only and a few and other schools that got cases, also cases are going to come in from other areas, because these learners and teachers are still exposed. We have learners who are traveling to school overcrowded, even in a one combi carrying about 40 learners. There is no social distancing of whatsoever. We have schools that do not have running water at the moment. We have schools that do not have even sanitizers to talk of, thermometers. Government has not been providing all these things. So we are sitting actually on a time bomb when we let these schools continue operating without addressing these issues.
Let's talk a little more about the education of students here. We've spoken to other parents, and some of them are saying, you know what, it's about time that schools open because students need to continue with their education. But as an educator, you're highlighting that, you know, there's a lot of issues that need to be resolved first before schools open. Exams have already been set. The dates have already been clearly vocalized. They're around the corner, as you mentioned. So what needs to be done to help students? Because even if you go back as teachers now, is that enough time to help?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing in that issue. Yes, we have different types of parents. Some also might not understand the value or how this education system must operate. One, when we are talking about education, we need to look into the quality aspect of the education, and also the access to education as well, and the inclusivity of it. A school in Dotito, a school in Uzumba Maramba Fungwe, or in Mudzi might not have will not have all this at the moment, especially when you are talking about the precaution measures, even to do with COVID-19. But you cannot compare that school with Peter House, which is in Marondera, a Group A school. So when you are talking about the education model, should also be inclusive, and the quality aspect of it can only be guaranteed when there's the materials are enough for each and every student, and also when the teacher is motivated to deliver the best output. And in terms of having exams now, it's not proper to have exams, because we are not talking about the learners. Teachers as educators would want to produce the best product. So the learners should complete the syllabus, and then after completing the syllabus, then it will be examined on the material that they've learned in the syllabus. But to talk of learners having an examination where they've not even covered half of the syllabus, it is very dangerous. We are not going to produce quality.
Vachiri tombobata nyaya nerurimi rwamai pachidimbu. Chotanga panyaya yezviri kuitika muzvikoro, tikuona zviri kuitika kuJohn Talak High School uko. Imi sevarairidzi pamakatanga kuratidzira, makaratidzira muchiti aiwa zvinhu hazvina kumira mushe panyaya yemihoro yamuri kutambira, uyezve nyaya yePPE muzvikoro. Tiudzeiwo maondero enyu pamusoro pezviri kuitika kuJohn Talak High School.
Nyaya iri kuitika nyaya yekuti macases eCovid-19 iko zvino akusumuka kunyanya muzvikoro, ndiwo atova masenda ekunge COVID ichisumukira. Inyaya yatakaisa kuhurumende tichinyunyuta kuti zvikoro hazvingavhurwa kana pasina gadziriro dzaitwa dzakakwana dzekunge vana vasingazokwanisi kunge vachitapurirana denda irori pamwe chete nevarairidzi. Nodai pane nguva yatakatomboendesana kumatare muna June, hurumende ichida kuenderera mberi nekunyoresa bvunzo, asi zvisinei wakazoenderera mberi zvekare nekuvhura. Isu mushure mekunge tataura kuti zvikwanisiro zvinoita kuti denda iri ringa risingatapuriranwe ngazvinge zviripo, hazvina kunge zvagadziriswa. Saka iko zvino takuona, but zvinhu zvisina kunge zvakanaka kuti tizoone mushure mekunge patoitika damage dambudziko, asi taikwanisa kunge tichidzivirira. Panyaya yemuhoro tiri kuti hurumende ngaigadzirise nyaya yemuhoro yevarairidzi. Varairidzi kuti vange vachidzidzisa vakafaranuka, hunge murairidzi achinge akaguta, hunge murairidzi asiya mwana wake adya chikafu, hunge murairidzi achikwanisa kunge abhadharira mwana wake mari yemaschool fees yekuchikoro. Saka kana izvi zvisina kunge zvagadziriswa, nyaya yekuti murairidzi akanga anodzidzisa achinyunyuta, asi panguva ino tiri kuti varairidzi muhoro yavari kuwana haisi kutokwanisa kuti munhu aende, nekuti vanhu vakutorarama nekuita mari chokunge vachirarama. Saka havasi kukwanisa, tinoti tiri paincapacitation nekuda kwemuhoro yedu. Kunyangwe hurumende yakaisa yainoti kachidimbu, asi kachidimbu aka hakana zvakakakwanisa kunge kachikavha panyaya yemasalari edu. Tinotarisa kuti vanenge vachitaura kuti vapa chidimbu, but mukatarisa pane maallowance akafanana naCovid anenge achiverengerwa ipapo, asi haasi tombori pasalari. Saka mari yedu tinotaura kuti ichiri pasi pepoverty datum line, uye varairidzi vachiri incapacitated kunge vachidzokera kumabasa.
Sithanda ukubonga uRobson Chere ngokungena kuhlelo lwethu labasakhulayo. Tinotenda Robson Chere, Secretary General of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, vari kugunun'una, vari kuchema-chema vachiti aiwa ivo sevarairidzi they're pleading nehurumende vabvuma havo kuti hongu varipo havo vakati vakabvuma kuda kudzokera kuzvikoro, asi vari kuti hanzi nangwe zvakadaro zvichakadaro mihoro yavari kutambiriswa nehurumende haina kumira mushe. They're saying ukuthi they're not happy with the salaries that they're receiving. 1, 2, they're pleading ngohulumende ukuthi hulumende, please, if you can, extend the examinations, because they feel as though it's very unfair on the students for them to be writing an examination on a syllabus that they didn't get enough enough time to study. Now, let's also head over to a protest that was done not so long ago, maybe just under a month ago, by the Junior Parliament of Zimbabwe, whereby they were protesting, pleading with the President Emmerson Mnangagwa to address the teachers' situation, because they feel as though it's unfair for them as students, one, to write exams when teachers are not back at school, and secondly, for them to write exams during a time whereby they don't know much about the syllabus, and a lot of students have not completed the syllabus. Let's head over to the speaker. His name is Christopher Jaden Mutasa. He speaks on what they were doing in the streets, and once again, this is something that happened just under a month ago, whereby they were talking about some of the issues addressed by the Secretary General of ATSUS, Robson Chere.
We are appealing to His Excellency, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, for he said that the voice of the people is the voice of God. So we're therefore appealing to him, saying that the children of Zimbabwe are saying, we want our teachers back and we're not ready to write examinations. Right now, we're looking at a duration ever since last year. Teachers have been on go strike. They've been on strike ever since last year. Now we're at COVID. This year we're now at COVID. And this year it's now a strike. So we're saying that how can a child who's not capacitated, some children do not even have teachers, they rely on teachers to take notes for them. So how then are they going to sit for a national examination that determines their future? We cannot lead a future, we cannot lead a student board, or we cannot lead a generation that does not know what it's doing. Yes. Henceforth, we are appealing to the government, please, we're not for violence. We're not even sent by any political party. We're non-political. Education is not political. Therefore, they should not dilemma ourselves and think that we are for political endeavors. We're not even sent by the US. We're not even sent by nothing. What we want is just our education, and that is what we want the government to respect. If they cannot respect that, then I don't know what they want to respect, because education is the key to success. Our generation needs and is crying for a basic education. That is what we're appealing for. We are appealing to Honorable Matema. That's why we even petitioned about 22 letters, 22 petitions that we petitioned with him before we even thought about doing a demonstration. So, but then he was not for it. He told us that he was not the one that brought COVID. So we are saying, who brought COVID? The Children's Board are speaking and they're saying, we did not bring COVID.
The Speaker of the Junior Parliament, Christopher Jaden Mutasa, he was basically breaking down ukuthi bona njengabasakhulayo abathabanga ngalokho okwenzakalayo elizweni, bayasho ngempela ukuthi uhulumeni kumele akulungisise ngesiphangiphangi udubo lwababalisi, udubo lwabathisha, kuthiwa hayi bona njengabafundi njengabasakhulayo abathabanga ngodaba lokuthi abothisha ababalisi balokhu beqhubekela phambili betshengisela lizwe umnumzana uRobson Chere ethinta lolu daba. Kodwa as mentioned kungxoxo engiyenze lo Chere, bakhona abanye abathi hayi bona basanda ukukhulumisana lo hulumende njalo bazabe bebuyela emsebenzini. So muri eZimbabwe mazwinzwira ka wechidiki we Junior Parliament aba Christopher Jaden Mutasa vangachi utaura oka maondro avo sevechidiki vachiti aiwa havasi kufara nezviri kuitika munyika panguva iyo varairidzi vachiri kuratidzira manzwaka vaRobson Chere vachiti aiwa ivo sesangano vachiri kuendera mberi vachiratidzira nepamusana pekuti mari yavari kutambira haikwani kuitira kuti murairidzi ave nemukana wekutengawo zvinomuraramisawo, uyezve vachiri kugunun'una nezviri kuitika muzvikoro panguva iyo tirikunzwa zviri kuitika kuna John Talak High School nezvimwewo zvikoro zviri kuitika, for example kuChinhoyi uko, apo vadzidzi vari kubata chirwere cheCovid-19, chirwere cheCovid-19 chiri kuendera mberi chichitekeshera muzvikoro. So that event that whereby we heard Christopher Jaden Mutasa achitaura, that is something that happened just under a month ago, apo varairidzi vanga vachiendera mberi vachiratidzira. Saka ndizvo zviri kuitika munyika patinotarisa nyaya dzedzidzo. Uhlelo The Connection elami uMike Hove muri eZimbabwe chirongwa The Connection muineni Mike Hove. Unfortunately, due to coronavirus, we're working from home. What this means is you cannot call in as per usual. See, kana mchida kutipa maondro yenyu, you can send us a message on WhatsApp on +1 202 465 0318. This broadcast that you're tuned into right now is going to be available on our 3 Facebook pages soon after our radio broadcast. On our 3 Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Ndebele, Nepa VOA Studio Studio 7. So if you want Muria Zimbabwe, you can leave your comments in the comment section and we'll be seeing your feedback. Makatera chirongwa chedu chevechidiki, uhlelo The Connection.
Bageti salibonani. Angiyazi ukuthi kuthiwa into they being relaxed kancane kancane ngathi kuyinto lokhu kuyadeja. Kodwa ke hayi mina ngisukuyazi ngimangale mangena la koBulawayo. Hayi lokho kuyinto kuyandehlula abantu uthola umuntu efaka kuyimazi kuvalisa ilembu. Abanye uvala umlomo kuphela amakhala phandle athi awumakanika bona kwezi omakanika hayi vele bazihlupha uyabona ukuthi lokho kunto kuyabahlupha uthola umuntu esekufakela esibhaqeni ebhizi ekanika eluma ulimi phela umakanika nokulima ulimi kumbe into abayithatha ngaphi kodwa bakithi ngiyacela let's try and do the right thing kuthi uhamba lokho kuyinto kuhambe kodwa kungahambi nathi sihlale sivalile amakhala lawo nomlomo kuyimask kuthe mba sigeza izandla sisanitize always yikho esikupreachayo ukuthi mawukhwehlela kwathiwa kimi umuntu akhwehlele lapha ukuthi lolu bhubhane lungabhebhetheke mhlawumbe luyabe lukhona bakwazi ukuthi sisindise abanye abaduzane nathi let's always listen to the rules mask mba sanitize senze izinto kahle ciao bangani bami thank you.
Madlela skobo kobo uyasho ngempela ukuthi gqokani ama mask njengalokho that was highlighted by abasakhulayo who are students in Epworth uthi gqokani ama mask ngendlela efaneleyo anzifeka ama mask in the according way varai miromo varai mino. Make sure that your mouth and nose are covered. That footage that we just watched is courtesy of our site, Lo Madlela Skobo. Uhlelo The Connection, ilami uMike Hove Muria Zimbabwe, just under 14 minutes left. Uhlelo lwethu lwabasakhulayo. Bese sikhangela ke okwenzakalayo lapha kwele Melika Muria Zimbabwe. Let's delve into what's happening here in the United States of America. Over the past couple of weeks, since the November the 3rd, America has been talking about nothing else but the U.S. elections. President-elect Joe Biden won the, according to what has been mentioned so far, President-elect Joe Biden is the one who is expected to take over the reins in 2021. Now, just as an announcement, just last night, we saw President Donald Trump tweeting that he is now allowing the transition from himself to President-elect Joe Biden. President-elect Joe Biden yesterday was expected to announce his new cabinet. He's already started making some of the picks. So let's head over to our VOA correspondent who's going to explain to us what's been happening so far and, of course, who has been picked by President-elect Joe Biden, and what does this mean for some of the people? We over the time, people have been talking about discussions with regards to women empowerment, discussions with regards to empowerment of people of color, discussions with regards to immigrants being treated, the way immigrants should be treated in the United States of America. So let's head over to some of the cabinet picks that were made by President-elect Joe Biden and understand more. What do they mean with regards to some of these discussions?
Antony Blinken served as Deputy Secretary of State during the former Obama-Biden administration and has been advising President-elect Joe Biden since 2002. He graduated from high school in Paris, France, and is a strong supporter of NATO and other alliances and multilateral institutions. Blinken led the U.S. response to a global refugee crisis, and in 2016, he appeared on the American children's show Sesame Street to explain who refugees are and how we can all learn from each other.
These are people who've had to leave their homes because life in their countries was not safe for them. Grover, can you imagine how difficult it would be to have to leave your home?
No, I cannot. I would never want to leave Sesame Street.
Some analysts say Blinken's first priority will be to repair relationships and rejoin agreements President Donald Trump quit, like the Iran nuclear deal and others.
I think his first and most major priority will be restoring the perception of the United States as a trusted ally and partner around the world. I think he's going to want to shore up relationships that were damaged. Essentially, the mantra is we're back. Re-enter the United States into the Paris Climate Accords, trying to find a way potentially to extend the New START agreement.
In another announcement, veteran diplomat Linda Greenfield Thomas is Biden's choice to be the next U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
But what I did have, I had the hopes and the dreams of my mother, who taught me at a very early age that I could face any challenge or adversity put in my path.
If confirmed by the Senate, Blinken would assume State Department leadership from Mike Pompeo, who has served as Secretary of State since April 2018. Cindy Sain, VOA News, Washington.
Well, shout out to Cindy Sain for that report. Moria Zimbabwe, you heard those are some of the picks that have been made by President-elect. He's ready to hit the ground running. He has made some of the cabinet picks that are going to be taking over the reins if agreed by Senate. Sakandiro zviri kuitika, but we also reached out to some Zimbabwean Americans, amongst them Muku Gumbo, a young Zimbabwean American who has been very active in rallying people to go out and vote in the 2020 elections. He is based in Texas.
Strong economy is very good. When I was in school, I studied economics. So obviously that's where I'm going to be more focused and lean towards. It's very important, especially for millennials. Millennials, we are by statistically the poorest of all the other generations. And so I think it's very important that you start making policies towards us in which we're able to be successful economically, just like our grandparents were, the baby boomers.
Muku, what about issues in relation to immigration? You're a Zimbabwean American, so I'm curious to hear your take on that. How important is that to you?
Immigration for me is so weird in the sense that, I became a U.S. citizen a couple of years back, and then you realize Americans don't know anything about immigration. So it's kind of interesting whenever people talk about immigration as if it's like this thing you can just walk through, because it's not true. It's one of the hardest things you can do, and in this country, it's very, very hard.
Now, Muku, when we talk about participation, the 2020 U.S. Elections witnessed quite a number of Africans partaking in the elections, vying for very important decision-making positions here in the United States of America. Of course, these are now Africans who are now these are United States citizens who are now of African descent. How important is such participation to you as a Zimbabwean American?
Absolutely. I mean, even people, I know it's so weird to think about, but Barack Obama, for example, right? Barack Obama he's African. His dad was a policymaker in Kenya, but people don't think of him African. And so for me, since then, there's tons and tons of people who sort of like him, sort of like me. Two of my sisters, my younger sisters, are they were born in the United States, but when you hear them talk, they sound American. So I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And so for me, no problem, and I really endorse it because it adds to diversity.
All right, Muria Zimbabwe, you just heard there from Muku Gumbo, a young Zimbabwean American. He's been very active in rallying people to go out and vote in the 2020 elections. He highlights what he would like to come out of the US presidential elections. Indaba zokuthuthukiswa kwabasakhulayo, indaba zokuthuthukiswa kwesimo somnotho, indaba zokuthuthukiswa kwabesifazana, indaba zokuphathwa kahle kwabantu abavela kwamanye amazwe, njalo indaba zokuthuthukiswa kwabantu abensundu, abantu abamnyama. Hayi, lokho khanya ngani kuqhakathekile kuye. Saka ndilo zvangazvichizei iwaka na Muku Gumbo wechidiki ari chizvaro cheZimbabwe ave kugara muno muAmerica. Muku akavhota gore rino, uyezve angari nechirongwa, angari nhengo yechirongwa changa chakanangana nekuunganidza vanhu kuitira kuti vabude neuwandu hwavo vachinovhota gore rino. Muku anyatsotsanangura akati iye sewechidiki ari chizvarwa cheZimbabwe ave kugara muno akaonawo mukana wekuvhota gore rino, hanzi pane zvinhu zvakati wandei zvakakosha kwaari zvaari kutarisira kuti vachange vachitora matomu ekuva mutungamiriri wenyika vaJoe Biden vachanga vachiita. Zvinhu izvi zvinosanganisira kusimudzirwa kwevanhukadzi, kusimudzirwa kwevanhu vatema kana kuti vatinoti nechirungu maminorities, uyezve nyaya yekugadziriswa kwemamiriro akaita upfumi kuitira kuti vechidiki navo vawane mikana yekuzvisimudzira patinotarisa nyaya dzemabhizinesi. Chirongwa The Connection muineni Mike Hove muri yeZimbabwe. Tipeiwo maondero enyu +1 202 465 0318. Lilakho ukusithumezela imibono yenu lisebenzisa iWhatsApp kunombolo ethi +1 202 465 0318. This broadcast is also going to be available ku Facebook emakhasini ethu amathathu VOA Ndebele, VOA Shona laku VOA Ndebele. Lingakhohlwa izulu kandaba ukufitizela lapha ukubhala ukuthi share njalo like ukuze sizwe phela ukuthi sibukele uhlelo lwethu ngobunengi bethu njalo sibone ukuthi hayi likhona ngempela abantu abalalela uhlelo lwethu labasakhulayo. Chirongwa The Connection muineni Mike Hove muri yeZimbabwe.
Message yabva kurusi chidzivirire COVID-19 usamire mbeso nemumwe mire wanimita kubva pane mumwe gezai maweko nesipo kwe20 seconds kana kudarika ezai kusaungana ezai kusaenda paruzhinji nekuti COVID-19 chirwere chiriko. Garai muchisanitizer, garai unekako kasanitizer nekuti kanouraya virus. Chinza masymptoms yevirus, kugotsora isymptom, kupisa muviri isymptom, kutatsa kupema zvakanaka hapana chakanaka pa masymptom. Kana uchida rubatsiro fona pa2019 rubatsiro runouya pauri asingati zvichengetedzei hama.
Kanzi na tirarira gezai maoko regai kusaungana. 2019 is the number to dial if you're looking if you suspect kuti pamwe unenge wachibakwe nechirwere checoronavirus. Tasvika kumagumo echirongwa chedu chevechidiki muri Zimbabwe sesifikile mapetsoleni ohlelo lwethu labasakhulayo. Kodwa sigqiba uhlelo lwethu, I also wanted to touch on the fact yokuthi kusasa, as of tomorrow muri Zimbabwe, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence campaign, the 2020 campaign, kicks off. This year, the theme of the 2020 campaign is Orange the World: Fund, Respond, Prevent, and Collect. Now, the theme this year is surrounded or focuses on what's been what we've talked about, the discussion around gender-based violence that happened pasi pezvirongwa zvelockdown munyika dzakasiyana-siyana kusanganisira kuZimbabwe. But what's on the same discussion of gender-based violence and, of course, helping women in this year's campaign against of the 16 days against violence, there's a young Zimbabwean who's based here, muno mu America, Makanaka Chikoero, who has recently won in a program that was hosted in Chicago by the Chicago Red Stars. Now, this program itself has allowed Makanaka to continue with a program that she has been running already that is going to be helping young women in the Chimanimani area. Saka aiwa tinoti makorokoto Makanaka uyezve takatarisira kuti maybe next week tikawana mukana tichamunza pano pachirongwa chedu chevechidiki kuitira kuti munzwe zvizere. But that's what's happening across the world muri Zimbabwe. Tomorrow, the 16 days of activism against GBV, gender-based violence, kick-starts. Kwadelokwamhla mthwakazo omuhle Zimbabwe omuhle tasvika kumagumo echirongwa chedu chanhasi sesifikile emaphetseleni wohlelo lwethu labasakhulayo. Nasi mchirongwa tanga tichizeya nyaya yezvekutekeshera kwechirwere cheCovid-19. We also gave you an update of what's happening here in the United States of America. Mangwana msakanganwe muri Zimbabwe, the program 16 days of gender-based violence against 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The program kickstarts mangwana. So ngeviki ezayo sikhangela ukuthi we're going to be touching on that. Kwadelokwamhla mthwakazo omuhle Zimbabwe omuhle. Let's meet same time same place phano pachirongwa chedu chevechidiki. Muineni Mike Hove muri Zimbabwe. Mthwakazo omuhle Bye-bye.